Welcome to the office. Let's talk. So, when I got my first job at an architecture firm, I thought I was stepping into a world I dreamed about all through school. Designing buildings, sketching ideas, maybe even seeing one of my own projects get built. And while some of that does happen eventually, the day to day reality was different. So, today, I want to share a few things I wish I knew before I started working at a firm because it's not bad, it's just different than what you imagine. So, in school, we live in design studios, sometimes literally. Everything revolves around your idea, your concept, your project. But when you start working in a firm, you're joining someone else's project. I remember I was once told that you probably won't get to design your first building until you're in your 40s. And honestly, that's probably not far off. It wasn't the case for me because I took that as a challenge and made sure to find opportunities early on. But for most people, it's sometimes true. You might spend your first few months or even years drafting, detailing, redlining, or revising markups from your project manager. And that's okay, because that's how you learn how buildings actually go together. But it took me a while to realize that design doesn't always mean sketching new forms. It could mean solving how a wall meets a roof, or how daylight enters a space just right. It's a shift from my vision to our project. And if school is about ideas, the office is about execution. You'll spend hours figuring out how to make something buildable. The people who really shine in firms are the ones who can take an idea and turn it into something that can actually pass code, get permitted, and be built on the site. I remember my first redline set. I thought I did everything right, but then it came back covered in red ink. It wasn't a failure, it was just a crash course in reality. And if you can approach that with curiosity instead of ego, you'll grow faster than anyone else in the room. Here's something that nobody really teaches you, but architecture is like 50% communication. Emails, coordination meetings, talking with engineers, explaining decisions to clients, those are all part of the job. The better you can communicate, clearly, respectfully, consistently, the more trust you build. And that trust is what gets you responsibility. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room, but if you're reliable, organized, and thoughtful in how you speak and write, people notice. You spent all your time in school trying to explain your ideas to professors and other architects. Now you have to be able to speak to engineers who may think and communicate differently than you, to contractors who have a different mindset, and to clients who maybe don't know a thing about architecture. You need to be able to transition your conversation to different types of people and different types of communication. One thing you should also know, every firm, it's got its own culture. Not every firm is the same. Some are fast-paced commercial machines, there's pumping out projects. Others are slow, detail-driven studios. And the environment you're in, it's going to shape the kind of architect you become. Early in your career, pay attention to how people treat each other, how feedback is given, and how your work-life balance is respected or not. That tells you more about whether you'll grow there than the projects themselves. If you find yourself in a toxic or stagnant environment, it's not a reflection of your potential. It just means you got to get out of there. It's time to move on. Don't stay in toxic situations if you don't have to. You also realize pretty quickly that graduation, it's not the finish line. It's the starting line. Codes change, software evolves, building systems get smarter, and every project teaches you something new. And honestly, that's what keeps it interesting. If you stay curious and ask questions, read drawings, sit in on coordination meetings, you're going to accelerate your growth tenfold. Don't just do your task. Do that as well. But also try to understand why you're doing it. That mindset is what allows you to grow to the accelerated positions you might be looking for. And what's sort of tied into that as well is you're going to have to advocate for yourself. No one's going to come up and tap you on the shoulder and just hand you responsibility. You have to earn it. And a lot of times you have to ask for it. If you want to sit in on client meetings, say so. If you want to learn Revit families or lead a small portion of the project, volunteer for it. Your bosses, your supervisors, your mentors even, they're busy. And they're not always thinking about what your needs are, so you have to be able to tell them what you need. The difference between staying stuck and growing is often just being proactive. And remember, confidence doesn't mean pretending to know everything. It means being willing to learn and to take initiative. Be humble and honest about your skills, but also be honest about how you want to grow. The most important thing about architecture is in school, architecture is all passion. But in practice, it's passion and a business. We're still needing to make money in this. It'd be great if you could do architecture and not have to worry about being paid. But we do. We have to be paid. You're going to see invoices, deadlines, budgets, and the messy side of coordination. At first, that might feel like it takes the magic out of it, but eventually, you're going to see how that business, that enables good design. The architects who thrive long-term understand both. They can dream and deliver. So working at a firm, it's taught me that architecture just isn't just about drawing buildings. It's about learning to work with people, with constraints, with time. And the more you embrace that reality, the better you'll get. So what about you? Have you already started working at a firm? If you have, what's something you wish you had known sooner? Let me know in the comments. All right, that's it. Let's get back to work.